How about Alan Treaster? Alan Treaster works at Disney. He is the one who had, and admitted to us, had sex with a 15-year-old boy that he met in Thomasville, Georgia. He told our detectives that his real goal, his fantasy, was to have sex with a 14-year-old boy, because you see, he'd already had sex with a 15-year-old boy. So he was working down to younger children. We see this person as very dangerous.
Things are not all jolly and smiles around the Magic Kingdom and SeaWorld and Universal Studios, thanks to a recent police action in Orlando, Florida, that swept in a number of pedophiles found working in these theme parks. And while the parks counter, it's a small number based on their total employment. One pedophile is one too many when it comes to working in close contact with children. Let's dig in as we welcome back to MidPoint. Sex crimes prosecutor Wendy Patrick brings her legal expertise to the dance. Wendy, thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you.
Wendy, first of all, let me start by playing a soundbite here. This again is going to be the Polk County Sheriff here talking about an individual named Alan Treaster here. And I want you to hear this. This is one of the individuals that they've arrested in this sting. Okay, I'm told we don't have it, so we will point out that he was one of the individuals arrested there. 16 people in Operation Cyber Child 3, an undercover sting focusing on adults traveling to meet minors for sex. This is an explosive item, though, if you think about it, from the theme park concept, because while they will only say it is a small percentage of people that are there, this would seem to indicate to people you have pedophiles that are targeting jobs where they know they can come into close contact with kids.
That's absolutely right. You know, this is not the e-ticket ride that Disney wants to be on right now in terms of publicity. You know, it's the happiest place in the world. You don't want to hear that sexual predators work there. However, Disney is correct that it is probably just a very small percentage of its employees. And another thing is, it's not just Disneyland. It's not just theme parks. There are pedophiles that work in all kinds of professions. It's true that they can target professions where they're likely to be in close contact with kids. And that's especially true here when you're talking about a theme park with characters, as Disney has, whose job it is to interact with children. So this is a dream come true for a pedophile. It's a dream place to work. And that's one of the other reasons I think where it's getting the press that it deserves, is it's a very dangerous situation. Thankfully, we're now doing something to address it.
It is not just Disney. We want to make sure to point that out. It is SeaWorld in Orlando. It is Universal Studios in Orlando. There are possibly even some of the smaller theme parks are out there. But what can they do? Because the theme parks themselves will say, we do as much screening as we can. We try to find the right people here. So what can they do now, the next step, to filter through this? Because, I say this very frankly, child predators are very smart when it comes to trying to get to where they want to go.
Oh, they sure are. Not only are they very smart, but they're very strategic. They're manipulative. They really think things through in order to make sure that they can maximize the time they spend with kids. So what can theme parks do? Obviously, I think this is a big wake-up call, and I know sadly we have a wake-up call like this every so often, to look at who they're hiring. You know, it's probably not enough to just look at resumes. It's probably worth, you know, actually following up on some of the listed references. But it's also a matter of supervising the people that already work there. So you can bet that supervisors are going to really be taking steps to make sure employers monitor their employees on a regular basis. Because while this sting operation really targeted what people were doing off their shifts, you've got to believe that somebody doesn't leave their desires at the door when they come to work. And that's why this is so scary. Sure, they were soliciting over the internet, but what's to say that they're not going to be doing the same thing when they're actually at the park? So increased supervision and an increased screening procedure in place as they're hiring.
You know, this also, I believe, really speaks to the parents, too, the guardians of the kids. And I'm going to take this now to New York City in Times Square, where you have a tremendous amount of performers who are there, and they are wearing the costumes that kids would normally be attracted to. I was up in New York City recently. I saw them wearing costumes which were badly put together. They weren't even original. The Minions from Despicable Me. Kids want to have their pictures taken with them. You have no idea who is in those costumes. They're there. They could be anybody, and people are basically allowing their children to get close to them, and they've already had some instances there where the kids have been touched and fondled by these people. You've got to be on your guard every single second and know what you're dealing with and potentially who you're dealing with, correct?
You know, that's such a good point. It's, you know, we've seen the line to sit on Santa's lap at the mall dwindle over the last couple of years. for the exact reasons that you point out. Parents are wising up. They are hearing these news reports. They're spreading easier with the advent of social media, and parents are really deciding not to take the chance on something that could affect their child in the long run. You know, children don't know what is and isn't proper. They may be afraid to admit what's happened because they're always afraid that they're going to be at fault. It's one of the reasons we often don't hear about these incidents for years after they occur. It's also one of the reasons that child molestation is one of the most insidious crimes that is in existence because of delayed reporting. It is so severely underreported that you talk about who do we catch in sting operations. Those are the ones that are really proactively pursuing sex with minors. Who knows how many other people work at any workplace, not necessarily just theme parks, that we don't catch.
I have about a minute or so left here. Let me ask you this. U.S. Representative Dennis Ross, a Republican out of Florida, is proposing legislation that would amend the Polygraph Act of 1988. This follows what we have seen here in the sex predator investigation in Orlando. According to the amendment, it would give businesses that, quote-unquote, cater to children the ability to use polygraph as a pre-employment screening tool. But then again, polygraphs aren't admissible in a court of law, so can an employee simply say, you can't hold that against me because it's not admissible in a court of law and it's not accurate all the time?
Both those things are true. However, there are lots of agencies that use polygraph testing for a variety of reasons, some of which you're pointing out now is to see whether or not somebody has certain proclivities, certain desires, certain types of really risks that the company doesn't want to assume. You might have heard the saying we say in the business, I never met a pedophile I didn't like. What that means is they're likable people. That's why they get hired. So any amount of screening that we can use to keep them away from kids, I think is a very good thing.
It's a shame because you have a lot of people who love kids, who like to be around kids, they're just friendly with them, but unfortunately you have to take everything into account here, and you've just got to be careful because you know, thanks to the cretins like this that we have in the world right now who really kind of ruin it for everybody, no matter how you slice it. Wendy, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Guaranteed we will see you again real soon.
Thank you.
All right, it's something that needs to be pointed out again. The theme parks, it is not just Disney, it is Universal, it is SeaWorld, it is all these theme parks. They are doing what they can. It is something that needs to be looked at. I'm going to say it one more time. It doesn't make a difference how many times I say it. One pedophile close to a kid is one too many. That's a simple fact of what we're going through here right now. Coming up next, we dance our way to New York City. The Steve Malzberg Show as MidPoint continues.